All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Ravens once again. They suffered yet another early round exit. Well, I mean, last year they got eliminated in the championship game, but still, I mean, they didn't even get to the championship game this year. And it's disappointing. And I talked about this. Whichever quarterback was going to lose that game on Sunday, it was just going to be tough for them to swallow because you were going to hear it from the media, and that's exactly what's happening with Lamar Jackson. And look, I don't think if you put the whole game together, Lamar didn't have the worst game in the world, but that first half really set the Ravens back. Whether you're talking about the interception or the fumble, which, again, I still don't know how Lamar fumbled that. It didn't get knocked out or anything. He just simply dropped the ball. And then it was picked up by Von Miller. And, the Bills turned that into points. The Ravens, they dug themselves a hole in that game. And Lamar was, responsible for that. But he played really well in the second half. And he put themselves in a position to tie the game, but Mark Andrews dropped a pass that he catches. Now, you could go back to, previous years when the Ravens have run similar plays, and, there was the one against Pittsburgh where that ball was a little out in front, a little too out in front of Andrews. So it's not like that was, right in the breadbasket. But Andrews has got to make that play on Sunday. And it's just, you feel for him because he's one of the better tight ends in the league. And it's just, he's been hearing it all over the place, I'm sure. But you know what? He had a great year. And he's one of the reasons why the Ravens got to where they did, which was the divisional round. It's just, there were some losses earlier in the year where, if you could have flipped those, you wouldn't be on the road. I think home field advantage played a lot into the Bills winning. Because that's why this game was so tough to pick. Because I thought both teams were evenly matched. And I just said, what, it's going to come down to who's at home in a way. And I think that reigned true in this game to some degree. I think if the Ravens are hosting this game, then maybe the outcome is different. But we'll never know. Turnovers were a big issue in this game. But where do the Ravens go from here? So, Derrick Henry's entering the final year of his 2-year deal. Now, I was reading that they could extend him. I mean, look at the year that he had. He was unbelievable. And, people would argue that he should have got the ball more in this game, which I'm not going to argue against that. I think Derrick Henry showed you that he's still got a lot left in the tank. And I think this is the right spot for him. I think the Ravens can get as much out of him as they can while he's still, got gas left in the tank. So I think you keep him here. And on top of that, you have Lamar Jackson. So, it's not always going to be Derrick Henry, you hand the ball off to him, 30 times, and, that's it. No, Lamar Jackson will take some of that workload away. And, that's why a lot of times Derrick Henry's not on the field on third down. They're going to throw in Justice Hill. They could get, the Ravens have the ability to give Henry a break. So I just think it's a good spot for him. I think we all do. But, Henry could still, play into his 30s. He had a big year, and if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley, he would definitely be the guy to give Offensive Player of the Year. Absolutely. And, it's just tough the way they went out. Obviously, you expect Mark Andrews to be back. For the Ravens, I think they definitely need another wide receiver on this team. And listen, they got to the second round of the playoffs. They didn't have Zay Flowers. Would Zay Flowers have made a difference? Possibly. Rashad Bateman stepped up this year. I just think they need one more pass catcher. one more. And there's receivers out there. We heard, Tyreek Hill might want out of Miami. I mean, I don't know if the Ravens will be able to do that. But how crazy would that be? Have Tyreek Hill, Lamar Jackson, and Derrick Henry on the same team? So, I don't know. There's that. We'll see what Devontae Adams ends up doing as well. You got T. Higgins out there. You got Chris Godwin. There's definitely options out there for the Ravens. Or they could just go and draft a receiver. And obviously they could go and try to continue to add to the defense. I know, I feel like I'm always going to say that. Because the defense obviously struggled at times this year early on, but they were able to figure it out. But, maybe you go out and you add a pass rusher, secondary help. I think it's just one of those things. It was just a tough draw for the Ravens. Like Lamar did not put together a full 60 minutes of good football. He didn't. But it's not like he's the main reason that they lost. He was one of the reasons they lost, but he was not the main reason. There was other factors into it that go into it. But the Ravens just got to keep chugging away at it, and hopefully that eventually it goes their way, because they are one of the elite teams in the NFL. I do believe that. And, there is a certain window that you do have. I agree with that because, Derrick Henry, like I said, you could extend him, and he's still got a lot of gas left in the tank. But, next year he could fall off a cliff or something, and, not be as productive. It's possible. And, Lamar Jackson at some point, he's not going to be able to use his legs. He's going to have to throw from the pocket more. So, you got to hopefully things go your way at some point. Lamar's gotten some comparisons to Peyton Manning because Peyton Manning, it took a while for him to win his first ring. I mean, his first year was 1998? And then he didn't win his first championship until 2006. 2006, 2007 season. And then he didn't win his second Super Bowl until his last year, 2015. And that was because his defense carried him that year. So, could that be the same thing for Lamar? Maybe. It's possible. And, what? Lamar has done a better job throwing from the pocket than he did when he first started. So, you just got to continue to work on that. And then eventually, when you have to become that pocket passer, you'll be okay. And like I said, I think he's made big strides over the course of his career from when he first started, where, he's not bad throwing from the pocket. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But, I know Ravens fans, there's some that have kind of, I would take John Harbaugh in a heartbeat. I really would. Because the amount of head coach. Sorry, now my mic keeps cutting out. But the amount of head coaches that we've gone through, I mean, I would take John Harbaugh. AFC North. They have John Harbaugh and they have Mike Tomlin. I would take them both in a heartbeat. Because you know what? Yeah, they might not get to the big game, but you know what? They make the playoffs almost every year. And as long as you get into the dance, you have a chance. You have some chance to make it. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, with them. But I understand. Look, it's been a long time since, the Ravens did something, since Joe Flacco, went on that run. But at some point, you would think they would have to break through, right? I mean, they have to. This is a good team. This is a good team. It's just, they just are on the losing end. I mean, last year I think was their chance. I really do. I believe that. Last year was their chance. Man, this is probably one of the worst days with my camera, really. I mean, I don't know what is going on. But this was, last year was their chance. I really do believe that last year was their opportunity to get to the Super Bowl and win it. Because I do think if they get past the Chiefs, I mean, did you see what they did to the 49ers on Christmas? I think they probably win it. I believe that. I mean, we'll never know, but they dominated them on Christmas. So, it's just it's been tough sledding for them. And it's just another year that ends in disappointment. And Lamar Jackson might win back-to-back MVPs. And yeah, I was looking at the numbers between him and Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen only has 28 touchdown passes. Lamar Jackson has over 40. But Josh Allen has all those rushing touchdowns. I don't know. It's a close race. I originally said Josh Allen, but now I'm like, I mean, look, I think if you're gonna give it to Lamar Jackson, don't feel guilty about it. Give it to Lamar. Don't feel like, well, he won it last year. Josh probably deserves it. No. If Lamar Jackson deserves the MVP, Lamar Jackson should get the MVP. We've seen players win back-to-back MVPs. The most recent player to do it was Aaron Rodgers. If Lamar Jackson deserves it, give it to Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson had a better year stats-wise than he did last year. Because last year, I didn't think any quarterback deserved it, to be quite honest with you. I think he should have gave it to McCaffrey. This year is different. So it's just disappointing because, again, if Lamar wins another MVP, nobody cares about that because they're going to talk about how he didn't show up in the playoffs. Even though he did, just in the second half, in the game that they lost. But, people will complain about this. Say, well, he threw an interception. He fumbled. I mean, he's got to get it done. But you know what? It's not just him. We're going to talk about them in the next segment, but we are in a unique kind of era. Because you look at the AFC, and outside of Joe Burrow and Tom Brady, it's all Patrick Mahomes. It's all Patrick Mahomes coming from the AFC. And that's why, Josh Allen hears it, and we'll see if, he finally breaks through on Sunday, and Lamar Jackson hears it. And now Joe Burrow is starting to hear it again because now it's like, all right, well, what have you done for me lately? It's, it's all Patrick Mahomes, and someone has to knock him off. So speaking of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but let me know what you guys think, though, about the Ravens and where do you see them going from here. I mean, look, I expect them to be a playoff team next year if everybody's healthy, and they just try again. That's really what it comes down to. Because there's not really much to add to this team other than maybe another weapon and, defensive help. But I think you're going to run it back. And you just hope that it breaks your way. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the Chiefs as they are on the doorsteps of yet another Super Bowl appearance. And I just wanted to talk about them and give you my thoughts. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.